Story 1. From what I gather from employees at work, most electronic medical record software never seems intuitive for medical staff. Story 2. The self-checkout kiosks at some stores are frustrating. How many unnecessary questions do I have to answer before I can scan my items or pay? Story 3. Piping and valves in a refinery. I am reminded every day that some engineer decided where to put valves without operator input. We need to place 8 gate valves along these steam purge lines, and they must be manipulated multiple times every day by hand. Should we put them on the edge, where they are conveniently accessible and a wrench can be applied when necessary? Now, place them about 4 feet deep in the pipe rack, so the operator has to lean as far as possible over the 300 degrees Fahrenheit pipe, where there is no leverage in the fingertips and where a wrench cannot fit. Story 4. Many of the book nooks on Pinterest are not designed by people who actually read. In many of them, your back would be against a window or shelves. Story 5. Government programs to assist the poor. If anyone who writes these things had ever felt a pang of real hunger, they would have much more empathy for their voter base. Story 6. I have always said that Microsoft Outlook was like a program designed by someone who had been explained the idea of email but had never actually used it themselves. Story 7. Playgrounds. The grown men who build and design these rarely include shade. It is hard to enjoy with little ones without melting in the summer. Story 8. You would be shocked how many disability aids and provisions fall into this category. For example, my local supermarket has most of its disabled parking spaces further away from the entrance than many of the non-disabled parking spaces. Officially, the reason is that they did it so we would not need to cross traffic to get into the store. However, in doing so, they are adding distance to an already long journey around the store. Another example is my nearest bank. The access ramp is down the alley to the side. The alley is right next to a club and is often full of urine, vomit, broken glass, or all of the above. This makes it difficult to get into the bank most days. Ramps that are too steep, step-free access that still has steps, I could go on. All of this is designed to be disabled-friendly by non-disabled people who do not always understand why these features are needed. Story 9. There are many things designed by people who have never used or cleaned them. Story 10. Bathroom stalls with that 1-inch gap between the door and the frame. Like, yes, let's make eye contact while I am fighting for my life in here. Story 11. Most products for women were designed by men who could not use them. Most pharmaceuticals lack testing on females. Story 12. Setting the clock on our 2018 Subaru Forester is an unbelievable labyrinth of steering wheel lever pulls. When you finally get it set, there is a hidden set button that, if not pressed, takes you all the way back to the beginning. It is the most frustrating user interface I have ever encountered. My wife and I tried to make a video of it but ended up arguing while giving helpful suggestions to each other. It is a user interface that causes conflict. Story 13. Airport bathroom stalls are the same depth as those outside the airport. Where am I supposed to put my roller bag? Story 14. Sinks. The type of sink that is a bowl sitting on top of a cabinet was designed by someone who never had to clean a bathroom before. There is always water running down the outside of the bowl, collecting in the crevice. I also see a lot of flat faucets, and there is always a puddle of water on top of the faucet. Lastly, those faucets with a sensor work fine on some days until the device decides, nope, not today. Starts blinking red, and suddenly you cannot wash your hands anymore. Story 15. Toilets in airports where the door opens inward force you to squeeze into the cubicle with your bags, brushing against the toilet as you do so. It is very unpleasant. Additionally, you cannot stand far back when you flush. Make the doors open outward. It is not that difficult. Story 16. A shocking amount of products designed for caring for a newborn are awful. They are designed to look great on Instagram and on store websites, but the practical use is horrendous. No baby product should feature beeps and blips. They should be silent unless an alarm is needed. There should be no lights at all unless necessary. It should have a carry handle and be usable with one hand since the other will be holding a baby. It needs to be easily cleaned and quick to use. Basic stuff. But once it looks good in photos, the rest is an afterthought. Story 17. Pinky gloves. a tampon removal glove, is the brainchild of two German men. It allows women to remove tampons without touching their vaginas with their bare hands. They raised approximately 30,000 euros of investor money on the German version of Shark Tank, but ultimately failed because women did not like the product. Story 18. I never understand why some cars are designed to be so complicated for basic tasks. I should not have to completely remove my seat just to change my battery. Story 19. The human body is a complex system. A 6-day rush job left an appendix that can become inflamed and potentially fatal. An optic nerve is too close to my sneeze nerve, causing me to sneeze when it is sunny. There is also a waste disposal line located where I would prefer someone not to put their mouth. Story 20. The new gas can spouts. Obviously, the government is protecting us. Or, in reality, protecting those who should be removed from the gene pool. Story 21. Almost everything has a disconnect these days. People used to work their way up to become decision makers, so they knew the ins and outs of the business from the ground up. Somewhere along the way, people were prevented from moving up, so the person working the assembly line never leaves that position. You can look at almost every job or trade and see this. Engineers who never have to work on their creations, corporate leaders introducing new ways to operate business that they have never tried in real life. This has happened at every job I have ever worked. There is always something new coming down the chain with the goal of making more money at less cost. Story 22. So many lighting fixtures. I am an electrician, and 80 to 90% of all lighting fixtures were designed in an office by someone who never picked up a tool in their life. Story 23. Cleaning closets. Equipment and machines get bigger, but cleaning closets get smaller. Trash carts, floor scrubbers, wet vacuums, and more take up space. Sometimes, there are areas that require clearance within a certain distance, such as electrical panels. These areas are often crammed into cleaning closets without consideration. De-icing salt and electrical panels do not mix. Floor sinks are not always ergonomically designed. Some floor sinks have barriers that are too high for machines to drain properly, causing odors like algae. High sink barriers are a potential cause of work injuries. Missing outlets in cleaning closets make it difficult to charge machines for the next use. This comes from years of experience and frustration. Story 24. I am completely convinced that the person responsible for traffic and mobility in my city has never driven or owned a car. Almost none of the traffic lights are synchronized with each other. On the same stretch of road, there are multiple traffic lights, and even if you drive the speed limit perfectly, you have to wait for a red light at every one of them. Story 25. I am a molecular biologist, and the number of very expensive devices that only work on software just one step above showing code in binary is way too high. The highlight of the month was the mass spectrometry software, which now allows easy sample naming and input of conditions. Instead of just dragging a table down to automatically increment the ID number, you have to copy and paste all 10 columns for each sample separately and then manually enter your sample number. Story 26. The modern speculum was developed by a male gynecologist who conducted experiments on enslaved black women and not by a person with a vagina. Story 27. A drinking water treatment plant where I live has huge valves with plugs designed to blow right next to giant electrical cabinets. There is a hot water heater in another room with electrical cabinets. The filter galleries have sheetrock. I have had some memorable experiences in that building. Story 28. Most user interface and design choices for websites and programs have evolved. Windows has been in decline for some time, as shown by the number of people still using Windows 10 or Windows 7. YouTube often changes well-established features without clear reasons and adds another advertisement before videos with each update. Story 29. Drug packaging uses an excessive amount of space for small pills. Story 30. The cup holders in my car are somehow too small for regular cups but too big for water bottles. They are in a strange size limbo where everything either tips over or rattles around like it is having a dance party. Story 31. Birmingham New Street Railway Station has a glass wall dividing access to half the platforms. To reach them, you must go back downstairs, walk along, and go up again. It was designed by someone who never had to change trains quickly. Story 32. MRI machines, particularly the cold ones, are extremely claustrophobic and noisy. The entire room is kept at very low temperatures to prevent the machine from overheating. Meanwhile, the person undergoing the scan is often very weakened by cancer or medication. The whole experience can be alienating and frightening. Story 33. The copper T intrauterine device or intrauterine contraceptive device still baffles me because there is only one size available, given to everyone regardless of the size of the woman or her uterus. As a petite woman, that means a significant increase in period pains and general discomfort. Story 34. That small plastic seal pull tab on olive oil or vinegar bottles is smaller than the average finger. You have to pull so hard that it either breaks or hurts your finger. Story 35. Whoever redesigned the Android and One User Interface notification bar in the latest update must have gotten the Audi or BMW engineers to design it. Story 36. The iOS keyboard makes random suggestions and changes after you type something. It is just weird. The latest iPhone has this issue, and there are many posts about it. For example, in the last sentence, who is that person? I do not know him. Why did my iPhone put his name there after I typed? And the next word, who is he, and how does he benefit from my iPhone randomly inserting his name into my text? Story 37. My washing machine. Why is the 90 degrees wash next to the 15 degrees wash on the dial, making it difficult to tell exactly which one you have chosen? Story 38. Those paper towel dispensers that store the sheets like rolling papers for tobacco. Depending on how full they are, you will either end up with small pieces of torn-off paper or with half the content on the floor. Story 39. The rules for Gaelic using the Latin alphabet are confusing. Whoever created them clearly had never used the Latin alphabet before. Story 40. Hotels. In my opinion, every room should be compliant with the Americans with Disabilities Act. It is not acceptable for there to be just 3 or 5 rooms that are accessible when so many people need accommodations. Having a roll-in shower or grab bars in the bathroom does not inconvenience anyone. Every space should be accessible for everyone. Story 41. The toothbrush was invented in West Virginia but not used there. If it had been invented somewhere else, it would be called a teeth brush. Story 42. The rules and policies in my department at work are often created by individuals who do not understand even the most basic tasks in my department. Story 43. I donate platelets at the American Red Cross once a month. When the phlebotomists prepare your arm, they pump up the cuff and you squeeze a rubber ball to make your vein swell. They use a marker to mark a zone where they can insert the needle. Then they deflate the cuff and clean the same spot with an alcohol swab to sterilize the area. But this also removes most of the ink used to mark your vein. I always joke with the phlebotomists. This procedure was designed by someone in management who has never stuck a donor, wasn't it? They always chuckle and reply, yes. If you have blood type AB positive, consider donating platelets and plasma at the American Red Cross. Story 44. Pockets in pants are way too small for women's pants. In men's pants, everything you put in the back pocket gets crushed when you sit down. Pockets in shirts are desirable. Yes, I do want one. Story 45. Tiny new build condominiums. It seems they were designed by someone who has never actually lived in a home. There is no space to put shoes or coats near the door. No storage in the bathroom for toiletries or towels. No closet or convenient outlet for storing and charging a vacuum cleaner. Bizarre layouts prevent placing furniture in any sensible way. The list continues. Living in small spaces is sometimes necessary, but excellent design and planning should be standard to make those spaces livable. Instead, design is often neglected. Story 46. Almost every hotel room has so much clutter on the bedside table that it becomes unusable. No one wants carpet in a hotel room. Use vinyl laminate or hardwood instead. Please provide an extra towel. I do not want dirty drawers. I want shelves and cubbies for my belongings. Story 47. I had an alternator go bad in a Ford Focus. Open the hood, loosen the belt, remove a single bolt, and take it out? No, there was an engineer involved. The entire right side of the vehicle needed to be disassembled to get to the alternator, wheel, fender, suspension. The engine was rotated 90 degrees, and there was no room to work on it without removing either the engine or the right side. Story 48. Touchscreens in cars. Great. Now I have to take my eyes off the road and navigate through 3 screens to turn on the defrost while my visibility is already poor. Story 49. Microwaves, specifically the ones that beep at you 5 times with increasing volume for each beep when they are done. Those engineers have obviously never had to melt chocolate in intervals. The machine literally stops making noise when it is done. It is not like you are going to burn your food if you do not take it out right away. It drives me crazy. Story 50. Public toilets with no music or white noise like common sounds. Would it really be so difficult to add it? I would even prefer to listen to advertisements rather than the sounds of people using the restroom. Story 51. That particular variety of urinal that is shaped like a small bean and has no edges or privacy at all. Story 52. Some engineer designed every restaurant commercial dishwasher with a significant weakness that causes it to shut down when a small piece of lime gets into the trap. Also, many point-of-sale systems are counterintuitive. Story 53. Whoever put the small hole in the electric toothbrush head caused saliva and debris to flow back into your mouth each time you use it. Story 54. Automatic video title translation on YouTube or any automatic translation on websites without the ability to turn it off. I bet $1,000 that the people who designed it only speak one language. Story 55. The M&M bottle sterilizer cannot be opened one-handed, and it is unreal how unhelpful that proves to be. Story 56. Whoever put the strip on the cling film box with a curve always crumples the film up. I would like to use it to give them paper cuts. Story 57. Educational policies are made by people who have either never stepped foot in a classroom or it has been years since they have, and it shows. Story 58. Applications. Some of the casual user ones like Reddit or Imager are not that bad, but every work application is completely unusable. All the features that should have been available from day one, if anyone had practical experience, are all planned for release by the year 2030. Devices lock up and crash constantly. Story 59. Fender guitars. I am not trying to be funny or criticize the creator, but he never learned how to play the guitar. Story 60. Kitchens. Luxury home videos often showcase kitchens with the best appliances, but the layout is poor. It is clear the designers do not cook, and the buyers do not cook either. Story 61. Mammogram machine. It is like a waffle press for your breasts. What woman designer would possibly think that makes sense? Story 62. As someone who has had large breasts and now has smaller ones after a reduction surgery, any man who has seen them generally says, "Yay breasts," and has a good time. The one man who saw them before and after likes them both ways. I prefer them small because my clothes fit better. Buying bras is much easier. I have eliminated discomfort from my life, and I feel better physically. Story 63. 90% of the automated coffee machines have poor quality. The foam is bad, the milk is overcooked, and espresso and cafe crema are made with the same pressure and the same amount of coffee. On top of that, the cleaning is almost impossible. I bet none of the designers drink coffee. Story 64. In the United States, we have cardboard applicators, plastic applicators, or no applicators as options for tampons. Thank you for sharing. Normal is different in different parts of the world. Story 65. I am not an engineer but have worked with one. He left a company because of this. He said that for efficiency, a different engineer or team of engineers worked on different parts. Then they had a very short time frame to make everything work together. He was embarrassed to tell anyone that he worked on specific consumer products because of how they turned out. Story 66. Azure Migrate. The amount of hassle it takes to move a physical server to Microsoft Azure would make anyone learn how to write code to fix it. Story 67. The McDonald's self-checkout where I live is truly horrible. The screen is huge, and to order anything you have to look up, down, both sides, back and forth numerous times. It would work fine if I were standing 10 feet away and had very long arms, or if I were just 6 feet tall, but I am in neither of those categories. Story 68. Bathroom stall gaps. No one who has ever urinated in public would leave that much space for eye contact and anxiety. Story 69. The small dumbbell racks that you see in most gyms. The number of times I have pinched or injured my fingers trying to re-rack the dumbbells. Story 70. The people who place barcodes on products. Bonus points if it is a large or heavy item. You have all that space and you put the barcode on the bottom or the bottommost corner. They have never worked retail or scanned an item in their life. Story 71. Some air conditioning units' wiring is infuriating. Honestly, most. I'm happy Jordy got paid for his work, but I have to untangle the mess in a tiny hole that feels like 140 degrees. Certain bolts had an extension attached to an extension only to move it a quarter rotation. Unbelievable. Story 72. Guttering was definitely designed by someone who thinks only rain falls on roofs and has never seen a tree in their life. Story 73. Car infotainment systems. Who would want every interactive element to be on a screen while you are driving? Story 74. Hospitals. You want me to get the ST segment elevation myocardial infarction patient to the catheterization laboratory as soon as possible, but there is no direct route, and I have to stop pushing the cart and walk around to press the door button on every single door. Story 75. Any home appliance, such as a refrigerator, washer and dryer, or bathroom scale, that involves an application or connecting to the internet. Just because you can do it does not mean you should. Story 76. Baby changing tables. There is never a trash can close enough or anywhere to hang your diaper bag. They all have a small slot that is supposed to contain bed liners or wipes, but I have never seen one with anything in it. The clip restraint could not hold down a dead cat, let alone a baby, so you cannot put the baby anywhere to wash your hands. Story 77. Deep fryers with touch screens. If you have ever used a deep fryer, especially in a restaurant setting, you know this is the worst idea they could have come up with for many common sense reasons. Story 78. The Xerox printers where I work. The old printers had a radio frequency identification tag system where if you print something on your computer, you can walk to any of the 100 printers in the plant, scan your badge on the printer, and it would print. It just worked. The new Xerox printers require scanning your badge to log you in to the printer. In order to print your document, you have to use the touchscreen on the printer, tap Print Queue, tap the tiny checkbox next to the document in the queue, and tap Print. It is very inconvenient to use. There is no reason I should have to tell the printer, yes, I want to print this document that I told you to print. So every single time you want to print something, that is 3 taps on a touchscreen after scanning your badge. Story 79. Oil pan drain locations. Many new cars have cross members or drive shafts directly underneath. It ends up resembling a messy split stream. Some vehicles have skid plates with 20 bolts that must be removed to access the drain, whereas an access hatch would have taken only 3 seconds to design. Story 80. Public transportation in some cities is poorly planned by individuals who do not use the system. For example, there is 1 train every 30 minutes and 1 bus from the train station every 30 minutes. Logic dictates that the bus should leave a reasonable time after the train arrives. However, the bus leaves 1 minute before the train arrives, causing people arriving by train to wait half an hour for another bus. This timing is not even early enough to serve passengers who want to board that train. Story 81. Electronic health records, specifically Epic, can be cumbersome. I do not need extensive notes for each lab result. Just show me the results. Adding lab results to my notes requires copying and pasting, which causes formatting issues that make them hard to read. When finishing documentation, you must click on multiple items across several tabs, opening windows that do not fit on standard monitors, requiring significant scrolling to find what you need. This process is inefficient. Story 82. Hotel showers. Let's install a half panel of fixed glass on the same side as the controls, so you have to stand under the water stream to turn it on, while leaving the other side completely open to the rest of the room. There is also a new trend of placing windows between the bathroom and bedroom, which seems to have been designed either by someone who has never shared a hotel room with someone they did not want watching them using the toilet, or by someone with a very specific preference. Story 83. Every piece of custom equipment and software used on a manufacturing floor. I have a dream that every computer operator will be required to teach the supervisors how their poorly designed products work once before dismissing responsibility for their poor designs. Story 84. As a music enthusiast who attends many concerts, it is very obvious when you enter certain venues that the person who designed the layout has never actually been to a live performance. Story 85. The food court at my local Costco. The straws are back where you pick up your order after filling your drink. The lids are hidden beside the vending machine for water bottles. The condiments are on another wall away from the actual seating. Also, where am I supposed to park my cart? Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.